moving it is. So welcome everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing Sarah Gill, the Executive Director of the Adult Basic Education Association of Hamilton, who is our moderator today. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much and welcome everyone. ABEA, as Sarah had mentioned, so we're the local support network in Hamilton, and I've been a member of the Online Community of Practice Working Committee since it started, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar on money math or financial literacy. I'm so pleased that there are so many people interested not only in this webinar, but the series of webinars offered this year around enhancing your practice with math. To begin, I'd like to say a few words about the Online Community of Practice itself. It's a series of webinars that's developed collaboratively by members of Ontario's LBS regional networks, sectors, and the provincial support organizations for literacy. Our goal is to provide free professional development to LBS practitioners, such as yourselves, on topics that are important to you. We've been providing these webinars since 2015. We've done 5 a year, and you'll find all the previous webinar presentations, recording links, and transcripts on the link you see on the screen. You can also find information about this series on learningnetworks.ca, the Learning Networks of Ontario website, under resources and publications. That's, of course, a shameless plug for that website. It's got lots of good publications and resources on there that you might find helpful. We're always interested in hearing about topics that are timely and relevant to you. So if you have a webinar topic idea or ideas, please definitely send them to us, and you see the email there on your screen. In today's webinar, we'll discuss the importance of financial literacy, various resources and curriculum packages available, and how to market workshops. Specifically, we'll have panelists introducing us to Money Matters, developed by ABC Life Literacy Canada. We'll be discussing the curriculum as well as marketing tips. Next, we'll review the financial literacy activities available through the task-based activities for LBS website. Then we'll take a look at the Financial Literacy Workshop Series developed by ABEA and facilitated by the Hamilton Literacy Council. We'll then explore the Financial Literacy and Learning for Aboriginals Means Empowerment, or FLAME curriculum, developed by the Ontario Native Literacy Coalition in Network. You're certainly welcome to ask questions as we go through each of the topics. You can do this by writing your question in the text chat or by raising your hand. We'll then enable your microphone so that you can ask your question or provide your comment, and we certainly absolutely welcome that so that we have some interaction throughout the webinar. At the end of the panel discussion, we'll also have a question and answer period. I'd like to introduce you to our panelists for today. We have Paul Bishop with us from ABC Life Literacy Canada. Paul is a programs coordinator at the organization, coordinating all of ABC's programs in Ontario. Much of his work focuses on Money Matters, ABC's financial literacy program for adults with low literacy. We also have Yvonne Thompson with us. Yvonne has been a program coordinator at Adult Learning Programs of Perth for 18 years. This is a literacy and basic skills community-based organization serving St. Mary's, Stratford, and surrounding area. Yvonne has had lots of success marketing Money Matters and will share her experience and tips with you. Next, Deborah Flynn is the Executive Director from the Quill Learning Network, and she'll share information from Jane Tour, who is the Executive Director of Project Read Literacy Network, who created the LBS Financial Literacy Task-Based Activities. Jane is unfortunately unable to join us today, but has sent some slides along to share. Quill created the portal in 2013 and still manages the content, so we're very happy to have Deborah here with us today to share this information. We also have Helen McLeod, Executive Director of the Hamilton Literacy Council, who delivers ABEA's Financial Literacy Workshop Series. And I'm also pleased to introduce Ning Walkway from the Ontario Native Literacy Coalition, who will speak to the FLAME curriculum. I want to extend a big thank you in advance to our panelists for taking the time to join us today and to share their resources and knowledge around this important topic for our learners. At this point, we'll go over to you, Paul.
Hi, everyone. So thank you, Sarah. So first of all, thank you all for joining me today, for joining the webinar, and to ABEA for hosting. So as mentioned at the start of the webinar, my name is Paul Bishop. I'm a programs coordinator here at ABC Life Literacy Canada. Today, I will be speaking with you a little bit about Money Matters, which is our free financial literacy program. Before I do, though, a little bit about ABC for those of you that may not have worked with us too much before. I think a few of you have, but a bit of a background for those of you that have not. So ABC is a national nonprofit literacy organization. We envision a Canada where everyone has the literacy skills they need to lead a fully engaged life. Much of the work we do involves supporting literacy practitioners and organizations through programming, marketing, communications, leadership, and advocacy. We support the work that literacy practitioners do in the community. Now, some of you may have worked with us through a number of our literacy programs. So we have Upskills for Work, our soft skills program. We have a health literacy program. But today I'll be speaking to you about Money Matters, our financial literacy program. So a little bit of background on the program. So it's a suite of free financial literacy programs with the original core program developed in 2011. The program has since then reached over 10,000 adult learners across Canada in English, French, Arabic, and most recently simplified Chinese. The program is really about improving learners' confidence towards managing their finances. So for this program, the true mark of success is when participants feel comfortable and confident to go into any bank and ask their important questions to feel a little bit more at ease discussing financial matters. It's a bit different than your average financial literacy seminar where there's information about investing, saving, and retirement. Those programs are great. This one sort of starts a little bit more foundationally, though. It doesn't assume that people are even confident in talking about money, right? That's often the first barrier to managing your finances is that comfort level with even talking about what it is you're experiencing. So a lot of the focus in this program is on discussion, right? It's not a sort of like one-directional learning. It's not this is how you should spend, this is how you should save, but really allowing people to talk about the way that they use money, to talk about strategies for improving the way they spend, the way they save and budget, and so on. Another thing that the program really emphasizes is zero judgment. So, in our programs, if we have a learner that, while building a spending plan, for example, says they spend $100 a week on cigarettes, the idea here is not to say you need to cut that out of your spending, because often that makes learners we work with feel maybe shame or get on the defensive. Really, what we encourage the instructors to ask is, something like, how much could you save if you cut down to a pack a week? What could you spend that money on? It's really not so much about directing choices, but more so on getting folks to think about the impact of their choices. We really just want to make participants feel that they can take control of their finances. Okay, so next up. So I mentioned a big focus of this program is undermining anxiety. So a huge part of undermining that anxiety is our relationship with volunteers from TD Bank. So for this program, practitioners, literacy organizations have the option, if they choose, and if there are volunteers available in their area, to come in and facilitate the workshops. And what these volunteers that come in and do, what they offer is not just their knowledge and expertise. Of course, that's really important, but it's also a way of undermining people's anxieties around talking to people at banks, right? A lot of the anxiety is around not just money itself, but of banks and of bankers. The fear that they're going to get ripped off, the fear that they're going to be talked down to, that they're going to say the wrong thing, that they might get swindled or what have you. So this often keeps people from maybe asking the questions that they need to, keeps them from using banks in the first place, keeps them from making that customer service call when they see a credit card charge they don't recognize. So the idea with having these TD employees here is having a trained, knowledgeable, but more importantly than that, friendly volunteer helps them quash that anxiety that they have around using banks and around speaking to bankers. Now, before leading these workshops, ABC always fully trains the TD volunteers via an interactive online platform. We coordinate the process from A to Z, recruiting, training, making sure the TD volunteers have everything they need to successfully lead a workshop. Now, of course, this is just one option. I would say many, if not most practitioners, choose to run the programs on their own after taking an online training themselves. Okay, so moving forward just a bit. So the program, there's essentially 3 versions of the program. The first one I mentioned earlier is our core program developed in 2011. It's the longest running of the 3. Now with support of TD, we've expanded and developed the program and developed other adaptations. In 2015, we developed Money Matters for Newcomers and New Canadians, which was designed for newcomers, with newcomers in mind. It's similar to the core program, the difference being that it assumes less prior knowledge of how Canadian financial institutions work, There's also a little bit more of a focus on credit, since that can be a relatively new concept for some newcomers. Most recently, we've developed Money Matters for Indigenous Peoples, developed in partnership with the Wabano Center for Aboriginal Health in Ottawa. For this program, we've adapted some of the situations and character stories to make them more relevant to the community that we work with here. With all these, though, there is kind of a focus on budgeting, banking, borrowing, and saving. And the learning style often quite similar across all programs, really focused on discussion as opposed to one-directional learning. Okay, so we have run the program since 2011. We have really had positive feedback on the program. People really like the informal and accessible style. So just putting up some comments from both learners and practitioners that have gone through the program. We've run this with hundreds of different organizations in every province and territory, reaching over 10,000 learners. Another great thing about the program is not just the program itself, but really the ease with which practitioners can sign up for the program. It's all a very streamlined online process where essentially we just send you a sign-up link. They input information, and essentially we take it from there, coordinating material delivery and coordination with volunteers. So it's all a pretty straightforward process. So I think I'll leave it there for now, but I'll be happy to take your questions in a moment. And of course, if you're interested in signing up for the program, please do reach out to me either directly by going on our website or perhaps through one of the webinar organizers.
Thank you so much, Paul. I'll just give a pause so that people, if you would like to raise your hand, if you have a comment or a question for Paul, or you could simply write it in the text chat as well. So please feel free to write your questions in as one of the panelists is speaking, or you can certainly wait until there is a pause for comments. It looks like we have Pamela with a question or a comment.
And I've enabled your microphone, Pamela, so if you want to speak, you can click the microphone icon you see, and we should be able to hear you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, so if we wanted to offer the core program, we're a community-based literacy organization. You would provide training for one of our practitioners to deliver the program. Did I understand that part right?
Go ahead, Paul.
Hi, Pam. Yep, you had that right. So you just need to reach out to me, and I would provide you with some information about how to set up the program, and also would include that online training for practitioners to lead it. One thing that I left out there, by the way, is there is an honorarium for organizations that do run the program. So all we ask from the organizations is that they send back some evaluation forms that we send with the workbooks. Once we've received the evaluation forms back, we can send that to your honorarium. It's $25 to $50 depending on the program. The Indigenous Peoples program is $50, the other two being $25. I hope that answers your question, Pam.
It does. That's really exciting.
Great. Yeah, glad to hear it. Thank you.
Paul, I'm not sure if perhaps you could, oh, there's the Life Literacy website now. I was just going to ask if the URL could be added to the text chat. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Thanks. You beat me to it. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. It's part of my job. All right. So is there any other questions? I see Jacqueline is interested in some contact information. So Paul, maybe I'll leave that to you if you wanted to share, other than the website, any other additional contact information.
Sure. Yeah, I can put it in the text chat.
Great. Well, we will move on to Yvonne from the Adult Learning Programs of Perth.
Hi, everyone. How are you today? I'm just going to continue on kind of talking about how we implemented the Money Matters program into our programming at Adult Learning Programs of Perth. We delivered all 4 of their Money Matters workshops. We allowed 2 hours for each workshop and had a total of 7 learners for each. A class of between 6 to 8 learners works really well for this material and allows for individual support from the instructor. Most of the learners took all 4 of the workshops. We also invited the family service worker from the local Salvation Army to participate, and we hoped in this way she would see the value firsthand and begin to refer learners to our program. And it was important to us to build on this service coordination piece. So the first step to get ready to deliver this training was to register with ABC, as Paul mentioned, and obtain their booklets. Next, we hired an instructor with a financial background. It's important to mention that in our small rural area, it was very difficult to find a volunteer TD Bank instructor. So we ended up hiring someone who worked part-time at Libro to instruct for us, and she did a wonderful job. Because of her experience in the field, she had lots of great anecdotes and examples to supplement the material that Money Matters provided. So here's an example of our training plan. It's quite tiny, but Sarah has a copy of it if anyone's interested. So we developed this to include additional learning activities and milestones that matched up with the activities in the ABC booklets. Our instructor created additional activities and added some from the task-based activities for LBS portal, which will be mentioned next, to make sure that the instruction tied into the appropriate milestones. We also added in some academic review of multiplication, division, calculator use, fractions, decimals, and percents. And if anyone is interested in the learning activities that we used, I've sent copies to Sarah Gill. So the feedback from learners was extremely positive. Everyone learned a lot of very relevant information that could be applied to their work, learning, and life. It was hoped that some of the learners would stay on and continue their learning with us after this programming, and some did just that. So once everything was in place, we began to promote the training. ABC Life Literacy supplied a poster template for promotion. That's what you see in front of you. And we just added in our program information and session dates and times. Our board chair made the casual suggestion that the St. Mary's Life Facebook page was extremely popular in our area and that we should post our classes on their page. So shortly after we did this, we started to get phone calls, and I don't think any promotion we've ever done was this effective. There were a couple of problems, however. Number one, a Facebook page can't share to another Facebook page, so I had to share as an individual. It was later suggested to us that we contact the facilitators of the page to post it directly rather than as an individual. Secondly, we had some calls from people who had post-secondary education, PhDs, etc. And we just simply explained that we're a literacy and basic skills program and that in order to participate, you should have a literacy need. So this is challenging to explain in a poster. My question is, how do other programs get around this problem? So maybe some of you have some suggestions when you're doing promotion for a course, how you kind of get around avoiding PhDs applying or calling. You probably all have similar issue around this, I think. Maybe I'll let you think about that, and continue on. If anyone does have any ideas, just put it in the text chat for us. So lastly, I've been asked to share an exceptional resource for understanding your pay. Our HR department at the town of St. Mary's directed us to a training video that is quite informative for new and young employees when it comes to understanding pay. It answers questions like, has your employer paid you correctly? How do you check hours and rate of pay? Why are there deductions from your pay? How do you save money? And much more. So I posted the link there, and when you go to the site, you just scroll down to where it says Financial Literacy, Understanding Your Pay, Module 1, and you press play. The video is approximately 12 minutes, and there are 3 modules included in that 12 minutes. So I thought I'd share that, and I hope you find it helpful. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. That's it.
Thank you, Yvonne. And yeah, so Yvonne has sent through a number of different downloadable resources, and they will be kind of posted and shared in the email that you receive after this webinar. So lots of good things coming to our participants on the call today. So I'd like to just leave a space here, just if there are any questions for Yvonne before moving on. Okay, well, thank you, Yvonne. If there's questions that pop up, then we can certainly deal with them at the end as well when we open it up to additional Q&As.
Okay, thanks, Sarah.
And I'll turn it over to Deborah Flynn, who will talk about the task-based, the financial literacy task-based activities website.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's lovely to be here today, and I'm really thankful because Jane put this presentation together, and so I just really have to promote all the work that she did. Jane has been an integral part of our task-based activities portal and has worked on many of the, in fact, all of the task-based activities are there. So when she saw this opportunity to take advantage of a Libro Prosperity Fund in 2016-17, she developed 24 math activity sets for adults in the LBS programs. They wanted to make sure that the tasks were focused on real life situations that learners experience. And so in doing so, they also wanted to promote Libro and credit unions, but that would be useful to learners to work with. They wanted to give more math exercises that stimulate milestone-like activities while also helping learners to build some smart financial skills. The task sets were all field tested by learners and practitioners. And practitioners teach math in many different ways. So when it comes to the preparation sheets for some of these tasks, for a couple of the activities, they were only meant to be a guide to practitioners. For more, they're a guide, and practitioners are more than welcome to change them and to whatever they would like them to be. So you can always adapt any of the task-based activities on the site, but these here, you can definitely adapt them so that you can make them more useful to your own community. You can put in your own community information if you choose to, your own bank that you have. The task sets include purchasing different items through rent through own. One of Jane's biggest pet peeves are the payday loan organizations, and so she really wanted people to know about when you buy something through that kind of an organization or when you're buying it piece by piece. So that's why she really wanted to push this forward. So purchasing different items such as laptops, cell phones, freezers, televisions, and they also looked up cost comparison, learning financing costs, and how much they really are paying when they're buying through that way. The articles were to get them to understand that there are various interests and to know why it's important to read the small print. The payday loan tasks are to show them the crazy percentage interest that's charged and how that compares to a credit card. Libro's information and understanding the different kinds of accounts that are there, the online banking, protection of your money in banks, your rights, communications, how to talk to tellers, and to also check the funds you receive or deposit. For budgeting, we had people use the budget sheets that ABA created as part of a Trillium grant. We just didn't want to have to reinvent the wheel. Why not use something that's already been done? So the task sets also include talking about loyalty cards. The benefits or not of various loyalty cards or memberships, including Amazon Prime and PC Plus, involves looking at the websites and researching the cards with specific tasks. The answer sheets, or all the task sets have answer sheets, so that anybody who has a fear of math, even practitioners would have them, so they wouldn't have to worry about trying to figure them out. And they have practice sheets that go along with them to work with. The ones with the payday loans, as an example, include compounding interest information so that they know more about what they're actually paying. So I just wanted to say that. I'm going to send this to you. I just put in the website for the task-based activities, and I hope it came up. But where are they? They're all on the task-based activities for LBS website. If you type in the word Libero at the top of the search bar, you'll find them all. They all appear, and I just put in a link to that. I hope it, yes, it did come up. And they're all of them are there, all 25 that were created. There's 25 there, so they're all created and they're for you to use. And so here's an example of one that was done. It's rent to own a washer and dryer. So you can see that it's very much like all of the other activities that we have on the site, where there's the goal path is included, the task description, the competencies, the level indicators are there, and the materials that you would need to be able to use. There's actually 5 tasks in this particular activity, but most of them have only about 3 in them. Right there. And so it even shows the comparisons there, pictures, so that your learner is looking at what they might be getting and what it might cost, etc. So they compare prices and the total costs. And there they are. So I just am really thankful to Project Lead for the initiative to create these task sets that are available on the portal, and I hope that you will take advantage of looking at them. And I'm really thankful for Yvonne's comments about how she incorporated some of those task-based activities when they were doing the financial literacy course down in St. Mary's at the Adult Learning Programs of Perth. So that's all of my information from Jane, and thank you to
Thanks so
Jane
much,
and
Deb.
Ben. I wondered
There
if
was a
anybody
comment
has any
that
questions.
that there was some familiar information given about the portal, and we had someone wondering if it had been mentioned, if the portal had been mentioned in other webinars in the series.
I think that when Jane, I didn't catch all of the series, I've been in most of them, but I'm sure that Jane mentioned it when she probably was talking about why math, because every time you hear Jane speak, she's always talking about the portal and pushing it forward and talking to people about it. I think that a lot of our staff know about it, managers, coordinators, and hopefully they're sharing that information with their instructors to be able to go there and to use the information that we have there. It's for the field, built by the field. So I'm hoping they're continuing to use it.
That's great, thank you. And I'll just pause briefly in case there are other questions for Deborah, not only about the financial literacy task, but also about the portal in general. You're getting some shout outs here, Deb. The portal is excellent, says Anne.
Could everybody just send me an email if you use it? You know, that accountability thing that we all have to deal with the ministry, it sure would be nice, because it's pretty hard for me to know who's actually been using it and who's accessing it. So anytime you want to send me an email, it's on the portal's front page, and let me know. I would love to take that to my
It looks like Susan would like to make a comment. So Susan, if you could, I'm wondering if you're having some difficulty with your microphone, but if you wanted to click beside your name, hopefully your microphone will come on.
Hi, no, I just typed my response, but I was just
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, I used the portal.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
I don't know whether you'd like to take the time right now, but if there's time at the end, I could throw up a quick poll and get some very quick feedback from our participants, a yes or no poll about whether you've used the portal. So I'll leave that with Deb and Sarah Gill to decide.
Well, I'll jump in before Sarah and say I would love that, Sarah Stalker, if you could do that. It's just interesting because, you know, it's there and we're working on it and we're looking at it, but we haven't had a lot of funding of late to new materials, but the materials that are there are very relevant and what we're using. So, you know, what's available for our practitioners, and I would love to hear. Oh, look at that. How quick is this woman? Sarah Stalker is an amazing tech person. And I am a tech
So I'm sorry, folks, I didn't edit the text of the poll, but the question is yes or no. Have you used the task-based portal? And I can assure you that these results will be very helpful to Deb in the field. Thank you.
Oh, we'll get that information, right? I'm sending that to my ETC for this year.
Yes.
And
so please go ahead and click your screen, folks. Only participants can vote, unfortunately, Deb. So
that's okay.
If there are hosts here who have also used the portal, perhaps you could let Deb know. But we've gotten results from 26 of you who are participating this afternoon, and I'll just ask if you could quickly just click the screen if you have used the portal, or if not, to let Deb know. Thank you.
And thank you for having me on today. It was a pleasure.
So we'll just leave the quick survey up just for a few more seconds, and then maybe we'll move on to the next panelists.
Okay, we've heard from 30 of our participants this afternoon. So Sarah, if you want to get going, I will keep this for Deb and let you continue if you'd like to.
Sounds great.
Okay, so just go ahead and you can click back to your presentation.
Okay, so I will turn it over to Helen McLeod from the Hamilton Literacy Council now.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay. Oops, I'm already ahead of myself. All right, so the Financial Literacy Series, this was developed by the Adult Basic Education Association in partnership with Haldnor Credit Union and Catholic Family Services. What's in the series consists of 3 modules. The first module is budgeting, the second is credit and debt, and the final module is credit unions and banks. What makes this series unique is that it was specifically created to fill void. It provides practical financial literacy skills training for those with very limited financial resources. This series was just a ticket for learners in our program. At any given time, more than 60% of our learners are unemployed and trying to get by on social assistance. Those who are employed are largely working minimum wage or low-paying jobs, the working poor. The higher paying jobs that some of our students manage to land tend to be precarious. Another characteristic of the learners in our program is that their reading and numeracy skills are essential skill level 1 or 2, and for a significant number, English is not their first language. This financial series follows clear writing principles. Never is a $10 word used when a $5 word will get the point across. The series also makes excellent use of visuals, graphics, and media clips. These 2 features make the material easier for our learners, or indeed anyone, to understand and retain. Of course, no financial series can avoid numbers. This series doesn't either. However, the examples and the calculations are simple, straightforward, and laid out step by step. One nice thing about financial literacy, this series, is it was designed for those with limited finances, so the dollar figures are never that large. I should also mention that the good use the series makes of examples and case studies. The examples and case studies make the material more interesting and easier to absorb. They are relevant to adults with limited incomes. For example, one case study looks at ways to manage money for a single mom on Ontario Works. Another looks at an older laid-off worker without savings. This series makes preparation a snap. Absolutely everything the presenter needs is available for download from ABEA's website, and it's all free, which fits nicely into our org budget. There are overview videos of each of the modules for those who prefer that to flipping through the facilitator notes and the guide to get a sense of what each module contains. There are PowerPoint slides that you can edit. There are lots of handouts to choose from. There are multimedia clips to liven up the presentation and give the facilitator a chance to sit down for a couple of minutes and enjoy a few sips of coffee or water. The media clips look at serious financial concepts in a humorous way. They add fun to the presentation, whereas most financial series are dead serious. There are a smattering of helpful hints and tips that the presenter can slip into the presentation here and there. These tips are not only useful to the participants, but dropping them into the presentation makes the presenter appeal really rather smart. Just another reason this series is fun to present. Not only is the series a snap to present, it gives the facilitator the freedom to choose. They can choose the modules or parts of modules to use, the order in which to present them. They have the option to trim down or add in materials at will. Or the facilitator can simply deliver it exactly as it's laid out, as it is comprehensive and well laid out. We've had experience delivering all three of the modules, both in-house and out in the community. Budgeting is far and away the most requested module. The 4 community services that we have delivered the series to all serve clients on very limited incomes, precisely the population this financial literacy series was designed for. Each time we deliver this series, we tweak it. We gather whatever information we can about the target group beforehand so that what we deliver hits close to the mark. The age and stage of life of the target group is key information that will help in the selection of case studies and handouts. And here's a tip for you. In budgeting time, be sure to build in time for participants to participate. In every session that we have delivered, participants have shared up-to-the-minute information about aid and supports available in that community, and other participants have found this very helpful. And of course, we knew nothing about them. Whoops. So upcoming budgeting sessions, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, budgeting is by far the most popular module. In fact, Ontario Works have asked us to come and deliver budgeting modules a number of times. Over the next couple of months, they have asked us to come in and deliver it to clients in the Youth in Construction program, the Maintenance program, the Pharmacy Assist program, and the Culinary Arts program. As an example of how we customize delivery of modules, for these sessions we will include in the presentation to Youth in Construction a bit about pay stubs, why they are worth taking a look at, and what to look for, as many of these youths may never have had a job or a paycheck. In delivering the same module to the maintenance worker group, we will drop that bit, as the maintenance worker program is for getting work as an apartment superintendent. The participants in this program are likely to be older and are more likely to have work experience, so a pay stub won't be new to them. To help advertise the financial literacy training workshop, fillable posters are available on ABA website for free download. We've made good use of these. And I guess that about wraps it up for my time to share. I hope that you have invested your time wisely in listening to me, that it will pay off for you and your program and your learners. So now, if there are any questions.
Thank you, Helen. And I've added the link from the ABEA website where you can find all of the downloads for the materials if you're interested. Are there any questions for Helen, either by text chat or if you want to raise your hand, we can certainly take your comment. We can activate your mic. So Helen, it looks like there's a question in the text chat. Do you sign workshop participants up as learners?
So Not the ones from Ontario Works. We kind of use that actually as a good chance to advertise our program and what else that we're doing, depending on the learners that we're speaking to. But not for those, because the ones for Ontario Works, those are just quick workshops, normally just about an hour to maybe half a day at max. But they can lead to people attending the whole workshop series that we are delivering. So, yeah. And if they're taking the whole program, like through our small group program, the whole series, then we do sign them up.
Great, thanks, Helen. All right, so I'll turn it over to Ningwakwe now.
Thank you very much for asking me to be a part of this. So I was one of the people who worked on the development of FLAME, Financial Literacy and Learning for Aboriginals Means Empowerment. It first started out with Canadian Literacy and Learning Network when they got funding through Prosper Canada, and then Ontario Native Literacy Coalition was a partner in that. But as we know, with the cutbacks in funding, many of the national organizations disappeared. So it is now under the sole ownership of the Ontario Native Literacy Coalition. So next slide, please. We developed this logo based on just all the feelings and thoughts and ideas that we were having as we pondered what financial literacy means and how it's going to empower Aboriginal people. So what you see here is what came to us through a vision and through just looking at all the colors that are important in First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. So you see that the hands change in color all the way up, and that's to show that we live in a multicultural society. You see a flame in the middle. Flame is used by First Nations, Métis, and Inuit. Fire is used, and the flame represents the fire. For practical purposes, cooking and, hunting, camping, all of that kind of thing, but also for ceremonial purposes. So fire is very important all across the board for Aboriginal peoples. The different colors in the flame, the blue and white, represent the colors of the Métis national flag. And First Nations, red, yellow, black, and white, of course, those are the color of our medicine wheel. And for Inuit people, the colors that represent them in the flame or in the logo are gold, blue, white, and yellow. And those are the colors in the coat of arms of Nunavut, Canada's largest Inuit territory. Am I the one that's going to be moving the... Oh, yeah, I went too far. So what we did was we looked at, there was a report that had come out just as we were developing this curriculum, this module. The Canadian Task Force on Financial Literacy had just produced a report looking at financial capability in Canada. And they had these 5 competencies: making ends meet, keeping track, choosing products, planning ahead, and staying informed. What they were able to find out is that in our communities, we did worse than the rest of Canada in making ends meet, choosing products, and staying informed. So that really tweaked my interest, and I thought, all right, let's go with that. But we didn't want to use mainstream words, so what I did was Maria and I had a discussion about how can we indigenize that, because in our collective work between Maria and I, probably half a century, in Indigenous literacy, we realized that an Indigenous learner really needs to see himself or herself in the curriculum in various ways, through visuals, through the wording itself, all of that kind of thing. So what we did then was we changed those competencies and we made them become things like making the most of our resources, tracking the flow of dollars and cents, choosing products and services, and setting SMART goals. So what I'm going to do is I have to jump ahead a couple of slides, because as I was preparing for today's webinar, I realized that one of these is out of place. So I'm going to go ahead. And this is how the chapters are organized. Each chapter will have a section on emotions and money. We all have feelings about money, whether we have enough or not, and how we use it, and the decisions that we have to make are often influenced by our emotions. Then we tied it into the culture. And for each chapter, the culture we tied into the competency that was being represented in that chapter. For example, tracking our resources would be highlighted in that particular chapter. Financial teaching was also based to whatever the competency is that's being highlighted in that chapter. Then we threw in a section on what is called tricksters. In our culture, we have something called a trickster, and it's something that appears good on the front to the visual eye, but then in behind it is something that's going to trick us. So we included in each chapter a section on pawn shops, and then the next one was lending money, alternative financial services, gambling and windfalls, and then I made a mistake here on my slide where I put credit cards down as another bullet point, but it's really another trickster. And particularly at this time of the year when people are getting their income tax ready, I've heard many people around here, I live on the Saugeen First Nation, I've heard many getting ready to sell their income tax, and I'm really, really hoping that we can entice them to look at a different way of getting their income tax done because they think it's a quick way to get money. Then the final section on each chapter is a quiz, and it'll go back through the concepts that were presented in that chapter. Most of those questions are reflection types of exercises to get them to really think about what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they can change it. It was kind of like what Paul had said earlier about the impact of choices. So we get the student or the learner to look at what is the impact of their choices. So now I'm going to go back, and we're going to look at why we structured or how we structured the curriculum. So we have in our cultures the medicine wheel: spirit, heart, mind, and body. We, each and every one of us, have those 4 components in ourselves, and we have to recognize and nurture each part. And there is also a learning outcome for each part. So we built that into the curriculum. For spirit, that's an insight, is the learning outcome. How do we improve attitudes and insights about money? For heart, we looked at feelings. How do we deal with the feelings affecting money decisions? For mind, it's knowledge, and to learn strategies, practical strategies about how to manage the money, because as Helen was saying earlier about people on a limited income, if you don't have very much, you better make the most of what you have. And for the body, the learning outcome for that is a skill. How do we put strategies into practice with self, family, and community? Because everything we do ripples out and has an impact on each one of those. So I talked to Linda Wright because I was told that they were piloting Good Learning Anywhere. It hasn't gotten piloted yet. What they did was they looked at the content, and they said that the content is really good. It's currently sitting in their Moodle space, and they're looking at ways of making it flow a little better in the virtual world. So what I did was I looked back at the actual evaluation that we had. We piloted the FLAME curriculum all across Canada. Well, I wouldn't say all across Canada, in each region of Canada. Yellowknife, Prince Rupert, the Centre for Aboriginal Human Resource Development in Winnipeg, and the Native Women's Resource Centre in Toronto. So I'm just going to give a couple of comments about what the learners in each of those areas said. Some of them really felt that the cultural content tying into our values that guided our decisions in the past are still the same values that we use today, but sometimes we've forgotten them. So getting them to reflect in each and every chapter helped them to realize, oh, I've got those resources, I just haven't been using them as much as I could. And another learner said, I know and learned that even when you slip a little in life, you can recover and learn from your mistakes. And this one touched my heart when the learner said, I learned that I should honor the gift that was given to me and use it to help others. Some of the feedback was very practical. They learned about pay deductions. They learned how to avoid overspending, how to understand pay stubs. Pawn shops charge interest fees. There was even a section on credit cards, and if you make a minimum payment, how that's really going to impact on the interest charged and how much money you're actually going to pay for a product that you thought was a good deal in the beginning. Feedback that we got, we were told on a scale of 1 to 5 that the home page was a 3.6. The visuals that we used throughout the project were 3.8. The videos were 3.4, and the images were 3.6. Learners said that they found the videos most useful when we were looking at the different aspects of what was useful to the learner, and it scored a 4.5. Others also said that the tricksters really made them stop and think. So we look forward to hearing from Good Learning Anywhere when this FLAME curriculum is actually going to be up and running on their site.
Okay, thank you so much for that, and thank you for sharing some of the feedback comments, because I think that's really what speaks to us as practitioners, is hearing the voices of some of the learners that have been through these programs, and what their comments for improvement are, but how it has affected them and changed the way they think. Deb has a question here. How long do you spend on each module?
Each module, actually, we highly recommend that this be in a multi-level environment so that people can help each other, because in our culture we've always had the concepts of elders teaching learners, so this idea is not new to us. They work very much at their own pace, but I will have to get back to you on how much time it takes to work through each module. And thank you for asking the question, because it also gave me the space to be able to say, I work with the Blue Water District School Board, and they were interested in the FLAME curriculum, so I sent them the workbooks and the instructor guide. They are actually going to start using bits and pieces of that in what is called student alternative learning, those who are supervised alternative learning, those who are having difficulty functioning in a regular school and need to be out in a more informal environment. Sorry, you know what? I'm going to have to answer my door. I hear somebody ringing my doorbell.
There is another question, so when you pop back in, then let us know, and we'll ask you the next question.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. In the meantime, are there any other questions for any of our panelists, or any comments with regards to what you've learned, or any other additional resources that you wanted to share with the practitioners that are involved in the session today?
Okay, sorry about that. I'm back.
That's okay. So there was a question whether or not there was a cost for the resources?
No, there isn't a cost.
Wonderful. Are they just, can you download them from the ONLC website?
I don't think they're totally ready yet. They were ready for me because I passed on the question to them about the Blue Water District School Board wanting to use them, and of course so that I could review them for today's webinar, but they were just finished. I guess it would have been within the past month, so we'll pass information on as to when that becomes available.
Okay, wonderful. All right, if there aren't any questions, oh, it looks like there's, what was the website address again? So Jacqueline, if you could just ask which website you're looking for. I'm wondering if it's for the ONLC or a different one, so if you could just add some information there. Okay, so there is some information on the Ontario Native Literacy Coalition's website, so we can certainly get you that URL, but what Ning Walkway was saying is that the modules aren't ready to be downloaded. There we go. Thank you for full consumption yet.
Yeah, it'll be on the Good Learning Anywhere site when it's ready.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that. That's perfect. Okay, I'd like to thank all of our panelists today for sharing their resources and experiences. If you are still thinking that you have a comment or a question, by all means, as I'm speaking, then pop it in the text chat and we'll certainly get to it in a second. A quick reminder that you may wish to browse other online community of practice topics that have been addressed in the past. So the web link is there on your screens, and so you will get this this presentation sent to you, so you'll have the information. We'd really appreciate it if you could take 3 to 5 minutes of your time to complete a quick evaluation. Sarah's going to put it up on screen in a moment. Your feedback is really important to us. It's so important, in fact, that we're having a draw. So if you complete the evaluation and provide your name and email address, you'll be entered into a draw for a $25 gift card. So new this year also for the online community of practice, if you have taken all 5 webinars, you can request a certificate of recognition, which is good for your professional development portfolio. And I know that there was a question earlier about this. I didn't have a chance to respond, but I believe that Sarah did. And so if you've attended all of the webinar series, please connect with Tamara Cottery, and her email is there for you. This is the last session for this year for the online community of practice. The committee is already working on next year's webinar series, which will focus on 2 topics, apprenticeship and the changes to OW and ODSP. So we'll be sure to send out more details when it's available. Sarah will now move to the evaluation. Once you have completed the evaluation, if there are no other questions or comments, please feel free to leave the session. And thank you so much for joining us today. So Julie, to answer your question, I'm not exactly sure. I suspect that there's the potential, if you were to view the recording or engage with some of the activities, that is possible, but I would suggest that you email Tamara with those details, and maybe you guys could sort that out.
Thank you, Sarah. I just want to reiterate that the playback links are posted for the previous 4 webinars in this math series, so you're really welcome to review those and let Tamara know you have. And all of the recordings are also downloadable if you find that helpful. Thank you. And while folks are completing the evaluation, I would just like to add my thanks to Sarah Gill and this wonderful selection of panelists that have covered a breadth of perspectives on financial literacy and have helped round out a whole season of informative webinars on math. Deb, go ahead. I see your hand.
Oh, I wanted to take this time as chair of this online community of practice for LBS webinars and to thank you, Sarah, and Contact North for their diligence and for putting everything together. You worked so hard behind the scenes to make everything look so smooth, getting all the materials up on the website for us and having it all there so that when we as networks are sharing it with people in the field, it's one link and they have 3 years of information. Also, what we did this year was we had each of the webinars transcribed for anyone who may be able just to add for the help in any way if you wanted to read what was said rather than listen to it. So that information, that is also there. And Sarah Gill was right in saying that we will be sending out certificates, and so there's going to be some time lag that we send out some of them because we want to ensure that people get an opportunity to listen to the playbacks, because Sarah also is able to tell us who listened to all of those. So I just want to say thank you to Sarah Stocker for your work. Thank you to the committee that puts this together, and particularly thank you to all of the attendees for coming and taking advantage of the online community of practice webinars. We really appreciate the fact that you're listening in and you're informing us, letting us know what's good to bring forward. So great day. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, everyone, to take the few moments to complete evaluations. We've seen 27 of them come in so far, so we'll stand by and see if there are any others. Sarah and all of our fellow presenters today, I again thank you for your time, but if you need to move on with your day, I will make sure that you're included in the post-webinar messaging this afternoon. And when you log out, please let me publish the recording. Thank you.